Hello, I'm Lori Lane-Zucker, founder and CEO of Impact Entrepreneur, and we are here at the Asia Pacific Impact Investing Summit in Sydney, Australia, and I'm sitting with Kathleen Cator. And Kathleen, where are you from?
I'm originally from Melbourne, and I've just recently moved up to a place called Byron Bay, the most easterly point of Australia.
I'm sure it's very beautiful up there.
It is, yeah. It's a small community that's renowned for leading the way in climate change and concerns about our environment.
Well, we are here in beautiful Sydney, and it's not very far from us that we're having the country's having terrible wildfires, which of course are fueled by climate change, regardless of what some people will argue. Tell me about your work.
So I'm a clinical psychologist, so I've worked as a health professional for most of my career, and more recently I've been working in community and building resilience for people who want to make a difference. So that's been family caregivers and more recently the climate change activists.
And you're here at the Impact Investing Summit. Is this your first time at the summit?
It is. I'm a newbie to impact investment. I'm a newbie to financial investment. So I recently took over the management of my own superannuation fund, and I'm pretty financially illiterate. So I've come to find out for myself and then to pass on practical ideas and knowledge about how we can be informed investors for good.
So give me a sense of, as a clinical psychologist, because some of the observations you have around the psychology of climate change. For example, why are there significant portions of the population in the United States, and I assume here in Australia, given the direction of the current leadership of the country around climate change, that aren't fully on board with the scientists in terms of the threat of climate change. From a psychological perspective, could you give us some thoughts and wisdom around why do people not want to accept the science and the implications of that science, and what do you think it will take to turn those people?
Well, it's a very good question, and it's a complex issue. We, as psychologists, understood that people weren't responding because they didn't see it was an emergency, and they didn't believe that. I think we've obviously known the science, and it's not a rational reason why people are turning away from the issue. I think people are highly distressed, and we're noticing people with a lot of grief, and when people are feeling overwhelmed, they're going to turn away and use other ways to cope with their distress. So I think there's a lot of cognitive dissonance across the board with our leaders, and really that people use that as a way to deny the facts about what's really happening in leadership, in our political circles, in our economy, and of course that has a direct impact on climate change.
So a well-known environmental writer in the United States who has had a profound influence on the direction of the environmental movement is a writer named Aldo Leopold, and he has a pretty famous quote in the Sand County Almanac, the work he's primarily known for, which says something to the effect of that an ecological education means living in a world of wounds. And you just talked about the wounds that people are living with who are coming to understand just how much of a crisis the climate change, global warming situation is. Is this a form of PTSD that we have to be recognizing and managing in people who are experiencing the effects of very rapidly growing human population and the impacts of that population on the ecology of the planet?
I wouldn't like to use the term PTSD and make it a clinical diagnosis. I think that people who are informed are very alarmed and got good reasons to be. I think, I'm just trying to get my thoughts around this. Where I think what I would like to sort of comment on is that in my work as a psychologist and teaching mindfulness and compassion, what we know is that people who are highly have empathy and sensitivity and are aware are more likely to get distressed. And we probably need to dial that back. And so, exposure to the catastrophes, and we need to build hope. But when we're coming from compassion, we're informed, we've got resources, and we're in action. And that's what I saw in the recent school strikes in Australia. Those school students were in a positive, they've been heard, and they were taking action. And they're taking action in the area that matters most, which is asking for policy reform. So I think it's having those emotional skills on how to deal with negative material, and that's what we need to build in our young people, in families, and in our communities, to have those conversations. And we're going to do that better when we're in connection with people who understand. Does that?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Kathleen, thanks for sitting down with me. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.